What's up, everybody? Nick Ridgewire back for the 10th inning, here with another episode of This Day in Sports History. In yesterday's episode, we saw Craig Kimbrell become the all-time rookie save leader. We don't have anything quite like that today, but we do have some no-hitters to get into, some more Olympic Games to talk about, and some Davis Cups. So if you all enjoy this video, leave a like on it. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Let's get to it. This Day in Sports History. And we will start off today in 1893 at the British Open in men's golf, and William Australoni would win 2 strokes ahead of runner-up Johnny Laidley to win his only major. Moved to the U.S. National Championship in 1914, and Norris Williams would win his first major title after defeating defending champion Morris McLaughlin 6-3, 8-6, 10-8. This would be his first of 2 Grand Slam single titles. Move up to boxing now in 1936, and Gustav Roth would defeat Heinz Lassig in 15 rounds via points to win the EBU and IBU World Light Heavyweight title. Over at golf in 1946, and in the first U.S. Open on the women's side, Patty Bird would win the inaugural tournament, and the only one that actually played in match play format, taking the 36-hole final 5-4 over Betty Jamieson to win her 6th of 15 majors. Get into the Davis Cup in 1947, and the USA would retain their title as Ted Schroeder would outlast Australia's Denny Pales 6-3, 8-6, 4-6, 9-11 for a 3-1 lead for the USA. It would end up being 4-1, but this would be the USA's 14th of 32 titles. We have a world record to get into now in 1949 in the 10,000 meter, and Viho Haino would run it in 29 minutes 27.2 seconds. This would only be held for a month and a half, still a record though. Up to the Rome Olympics in 1960, and Armin Harry of Germany would win the 100-meter gold medal in 10.2 seconds, becoming the first non-American to win the event since 1928. We stay in those games but move over to swimming, and in the 4x200 meter freestyle relay, the USA team would swim in a world record 8 minutes 10.2 seconds, one that would be held for 3 years, en route to the gold. Then in the 4x100 medley relay in those games, the USA team would also swim the world record in 4 minutes 5.4 seconds, and this would be held for 1 year. 4 years later in 1964, San Francisco Giants reliever Masanori Murakami would become the first Japanese-born player to appear in Major League Baseball in the US. Move up to 1972. We do not start with the Olympic Games, but we do have some Olympic Games to talk about. We will start actually in chess. And American Grandmaster Bobby Fischer would defeat the Russian champion Boris Spassky 12.5 to 8.5, becoming the first American to ever win the title. Now we get into the 1972 Olympic Games, and we will start in swimming. In the women's 200-meter freestyle, Shane Gould of Australia would win in a world record 2 minutes 3.56 seconds, one that would be held for 2 years, and this would be her 3rd and final gold medal of those games. Then in the women's 200-meter butterfly, there would be an American sweep, with Karen Moe taking gold in 2 minutes 15.57 seconds, a record that would be held for 1 year, ahead of teammates Lynn Colella, silver, and Ellie Daniel, bronze. Now we move over to track and field in those games, and in the men's 100-meter, Valery Borzov at 10.14 seconds of the Soviet Union would win the gold. Stay in those games, go to gymnastics though, and Sawa Kato of Japan would win the parallel bars to win his 3rd gold medal of those games, including the team and the individual all around. Now we go to the equestrian individual event in those games, and Richard Meade, representing Great Britain, would take the gold. Finally in those games, Josef Sapecki of Poland would successfully defend his Olympic title in the 25-meter rapid-fire pistol with an Olympic record 595 points. 1 year later, we moved to boxing in 1973, and in his first title defense, George Foreman would knock out Jose Roman in 1 round to retain the title. 9 years later, in 1984, over to college football, and in the Mississippi Valley State game against Kentucky State, Willie Taulton would pass for a then Division I AA record 536 yards and 9 touchdowns, the latter still a record. And Jerry Rice would catch 17 passes for 294 yards and 5 touchdowns, at that point breaking his own record for total yardage in pass receptions. Since then, it has been broken. 1 year later, we go over to cycling at the UCI World Championship, and Joop Zoetemelk would become the oldest road race elite world champion at 38 years, 8 months, 29 days old, and this would be his only title. Move over to the US Open in 1987, and 15-year-old Michael Chang would become the youngest man to win a match at the US Open when he would defeat Paul McNamee in 4 sets in the opening round 6-3, 6-7, 6-4, 6-4. 2 years later, we remain at the US Open in 1989, and Chris Evert would become the first ever player to win 100 matches at the US National/Open after defeating Patricia Tarabania 6-2, 6-4. She is now not the only player to have done so, but she was the first. Now we move up to 1991, and at the World Athletics Championships, Hiromu Taniguchi would win the marathon in 2 hours, 14 minutes, 57 seconds. 2 years later, in 1993, at the US Open, there would be the longest tiebreak in US Open history when Goran Ivanisevic and Daniel Nestor would play to a 2018 tiebreaker in their first round match. This was eventually won by Ivanisevic at 6-4, 7-6, 7-6, 2018. 3 years later, in 1996, in the NFL, we have another debut when the Baltimore Ravens would play their first game in Memorial Stadium, and they would defeat the Oakland Raiders 17-14. 5 years later, in 2001, in rugby, the Australian team would win a famous last-minute 29-26 victory over New Zealand to retain the Tri-Nations Series Cup and win their second of 4 titles. 5 years later, in 2006, the United States men's basketball team would be upset at the World Basketball Championship as Greece would pull off the 101-95 upset in the semifinals. Staying in 2006, and Roger Goodell would begin his tenure as the NFL commissioner. 1 year later in Major League Baseball, Clay Buchholz of the Boston Red Sox would become the first Red Sox rookie to throw a no-hitter in the team's 10-0 victory over the Orioles. Buchholz on the day, 9 innings pitched, 3 walks allowed, 9 strikeouts. Finally, in 2007, in college football, in one of the biggest upsets in college football history, in the first game of the season, Appalachian State's Corey Lynch would block a Jason Gingel's 37-yard field goal attempt with 6 seconds remaining to win 34-32 over Michigan in Ann Arbor. Now we move to 2013 in football, and Gareth Bale would transfer from Tottenham Hotspur to Real Madrid for a world record £85.3 million, or just over 100 million euros, breaking Cristiano Ronaldo in 2009. 1 year later, in 2014, the Philadelphia Phillies would become the 11th team in baseball history to throw a combined no-hitter in the team's 7-0 victory over the Braves. Cole Hamels started it off, 6 innings pitched, 5 walks allowed, 7 strikeouts. Then you had Jake Diekman, 1 inning, 2 strikeouts, Ken Giles, 1 inning, 3 strikeouts, and Jonathan Papelbon, 1 inning, completing the no-hitter. And we will end today's video off with a no-hitter, not a team no-hitter, but an individual no-hitter. In 2019, Houston Astros' Justin Verlander would throw his 3rd career no-hitter in a 2-0 win over the Toronto Blue Jays. And Verlander on the day, 9 innings pitched, 1 walk allowed, 14 strikeouts, and the 1 walk was to the second batter of the game. So there you have it. That's what happened on this day in sports history. If I mispronounced any names, I do apologize. But I'll see everybody tomorrow for Nick O'Dwyer in the 10th inning. See ya.